We watch the Hillary video more often than kids watch Frozen. In this era of rampant transparency, the iPhone sees all, with more angles than a geometry test. You can't get away with it anymore. Still, Hillary's lack of transparency creates endless amateur medical sleuthing. She has Parkinson's. She has epilepsy. She's a shape-shifting space lizard. That was my prognosis. So maybe it's time for mandatory independent physicals for all candidates. And it can't be a physical from the doctor who writes your prescriptions. That's like having a mom grade her kid's term paper. It's got to be a third party, like Bones McCoy. But there is a drawback to this kind of medical exam. Will it be harder to get candidates with real pasts to run, those delightful rogues whose choices left a few marks on their permanent record, if you know what I mean? But this doesn't explain Hillary's secrecy, for she denies certain truths that, for most of us, are quite easy to see. No matter what she says, she knew Benghazi wasn't caused by a video. She knows exactly what happened to all those emails. She may not know how to wipe a server, but she knew somebody who does. And she knows precisely how many quids a pro is worth. Fact is, because she's so secretive, we know her very, very well. We know she'll lie. What we don't know is why. At some point, she had to make a calculation. Is it worth destroying credibility by saying there's nothing in the emails except baby pics when we all know it's a lie? By hiding everything, she reveals everything about herself. It is interesting, Kimberly.
That was like a free little psychiatric exam.
But you know, what kind? Like, she's the type of person who lies and knows you know that she's lying.
Well, then that's called pathological. So this is the problem. But does it matter?
Well,
pathological reward is the presidency. I mean, that's what she's hoping on, that she can sit there and lie, that people won't care because it's predestined that she's supposed to be the next POTUS. That's the deal. She's counting on that, and she said people that are supporting Trump, you know, are deplorable and all of this. And so where do you go from there? People don't seem to matter. The truth should matter. Credibility and honesty should matter. She shouldn't have lied about the emails, and she keeps getting exposed. But, you know, let's see if the clock runs out till November 8th.
Hey, Juan, is an objective medical assessment the answer?
Yeah, I completely buy into that, and I think everybody who's been looking at this thinks that it would help everybody in this age when you can, in fact, have reliable information from an established doctor provided, all the kind of medical diagnosis and tests that we have these days with what I know you hate is all the high-tech stuff. But it's, I mean, you can know it. So I don't see that there's any problem. But I think your monologue raised a real question. A lot of people might not buy into it.
Yes.
Now, I will say this. I just thought your monologue was off on this email. I get sick of this email stuff. It just talk about something that makes me ill. It's this email stuff.
Then that means I'm hitting something truthful.
Well, no, it just means that, like much of the right-wing media, you just keep hammering. I mean, you know, the other day they said, oh, you know, there are 30 so many emails that Hillary didn't, and they come out, nothing's in it. In fact, compliments from other diplomats. It's just bizarre to me.
Isn't it all fit together, though, Juan? Isn't it the emails and the Clinton Foundation and their lack of transparency on her health records? Don't they all just paint a picture of someone who, number one, forget above the law, but number two, is completely non-transparent about anything she's done or anything she has done up to here, and probably will be even worse going forward if she is the president. If she's willing to hide stuff, lie about her emails, lie about her servers, lie about how many devices she used, possibly lie about what she did with the Clinton Foundation, quid pro quo. Is it how many quids for a pro or how many quids for a quo? I think maybe a quo. Anyway, but if she's willing to lie about all this, and then when it comes down to something you can't lie about, your health record, you just can't.
Right.
Either release them or you don't, and she's unwilling to do that, then I think maybe you've painted the picture of who she is, and maybe the independent voter might say, I'm not on board with that.
I think there's a lot of media bias here against Hillary Clinton.
What?
Because I listen to you and I say, are you talking about Donald Trump, who has released no health information, or are you talking about Hillary Clinton, who released in July of 2015 a comprehensive...
That is a very good argument. However, Donald Trump's not the one who has fallen over a couple of times, has stumbled going up onto his... and broken his elbow. Couldn't testify to a congressional hearing because he couldn't... He was too dizzy to testify, and they had to postpone it. Hillary Clinton has all of those on her record.
Oh, I see. And so Donald Trump, who's revealed nothing, you give every consideration. Say, oh, well, he must be imperfect. I don't know. But I will say this. I think she's the Greta Garbo of politicians. She values her privacy to no end. And she makes the argument, gee, you've seen my tax returns for 40 years. You know my health record completely, and you know everything in the emails to get back to Greg, and yet everybody on the right says, we don't know her. And this has become a meme in this campaign, and then it's pushed up the not trustworthy numbers. I just think it's not fair.
The history there is that she's lied, and she
lied about what?
Everything.
Jim Comey. The FBI. Did the FBI say she
lied about the video?
She lied about the video. Devices. She said she had.
That's one head. Hey, Dana, guess what? I have tape of Hillary speaking to Anderson Cooper. Would you like to listen to it?
More than anything.
I thought so.
I just didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. It's just the kind of thing that if it happens to you and you're a busy, active person, you keep moving forward. And, you know, I think it's fair to say, Anderson, that people know more about me than almost anyone in public life. They've got 40 years of my tax returns, tens of thousands of emails, a detailed medical letter report, all kinds of personal details. As soon as it became clear I couldn't power through, we said what was going on.
So it's exactly what Juan says. Everybody knows everything about her, but only once they have tape of her. Then she becomes authentic.
It's unclear why. I think that over in Brooklyn at the campaign headquarters, there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. You can imagine them sitting there thinking, okay, she got a diagnosis of pneumonia. So the logical and easy thing to do is to put out a statement that says, ma'am, and to tell her that, ma'am, it's important for us to disclose this because of all the other things that have been going on. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say that you've been diagnosed with treatable pneumonia. You've done X amount of events. It's viral pneumonia. You've been treating for it. You're going to take a couple of days off. And it wouldn't have been that big a deal. But her instinct, or somebody on her campaign's instinct, was to hide it.
Hide and lie. Hide or lie.
Well, it depends on, right. Then you have to get to the question of what the other part of your monologue that I think is important, which is, in today's day and age, when you can have a demand from voters for more transparency, but you have people who are demanding more privacy in their own lives, so where does that line get drawn? And I think that John McCain, when he released 1,200 pages of his medical records, set a little bit of a standard. And I think that Hillary Clinton's campaign is going to have to release more health records, partly because of the way they handled this on Friday.
And partly because she doesn't look healthy. But she seems sickly, and it's sad because you know what I keep thinking of? Like, if that was my mother or father, I'd be like, I'm really worried. I want to make sure you're not getting run down. Feels like everyone's trying to just push because they want her so badly in the White House. It's like, don't you have serious concerns about her health and whether she's doing okay? I mean, isn't it obvious?
Can I add to that? I'll bet you 99% of the doctors who've watched this whole episode unfold, now that we know in hindsight that she was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday. We didn't know that until Sunday, but on Friday. A doctor is told that a 68-year-old woman passes out, loses consciousness, or almost loses consciousness, has pneumonia, and there's a history of this. How many of them would send that person right to the ER? I'll bet you 99% of them would. They were going to the ER. The protocol for the Secret Service is go to the ER. But what did the campaign do? They decided to break protocol, reroute her to Chelsea Clinton's apartment instead. Why? Because they just didn't like the optics of her going to the emergency.
They had her body double hug a child.
Well, and they don't want other doctors having, besides her team, having access to her medical information and running like a CBC. Yes, if she goes into the ER, you can't control the team. You've got other doctors in there, and her records would be in the hospital system. I was going to agree
with Eric when I say, but Eric, I would say this. I think it was her decision. I don't know that anybody, and I think it was her decision, Dana, in terms of the campaign people who didn't buck her, who didn't like say, hey, no, we got to put this out.
I would have stood in front of her and poured gasoline on my head with a box of matches and said, you're going to let me put out this statement or I'm lighting a match. That's how you get their attention.
But you know what Bill Clinton said?
Dramatic.
In this interview, he said, you know what, she often gets dehydrated. And there's a lot of gossip today among people who say, you know what, she doesn't like to drink water. And I was like, why wouldn't...
Unlike Rubio.
Why wouldn't she like to drink water?
This is an unbelievable conversation to be having 54 days.
Yeah, but
why wouldn't she like to drink water?
I don't hate the water.
Well, so one of the arguments...
She hate the water? She's waterist.
But
the ocean.
I don't like drinking water.
Can I finish this thought? Just a second. One of the arguments is that Trump really got under her skin when he made this comment about, oh, I know where she was in that debate where she went to the bathroom and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And she, you know, and that she gets, I mean, look, she's a 68-year-old woman. There's nothing wrong with that. And going to the bathroom all of a sudden now becomes a big deal and evidence of weakness in a very sexist world with the first woman candidate. And I think that, you know what, maybe she's a little embarrassed.
Yeah, see, men, we go to the bathroom, but it's always late at night, 6 or 7 times. That's what happens.
You're looking at bowling?
It is.
I
I don't know what was going on
for
there.
that.
Yeah, seriously. It might even be advertised on this very network. But you know, here's the...
Oh, that Catherine.
No, not
You can imagine that
the
there's never been a woman that has had to release her medical physical.
Right.
And one of the things on there, I mean, you have to, that's actually a lot of information. If you go back and look at Obama's or Bush's or any of the other previous presidents that in the modern day, when you have the physical up at Andrews, or not at Andrews, but at Walter Reed or at Bethesda Naval now, when they release that information, it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Okay, like your weight. Which I wouldn't want to say.
Well, okay, here's a question.
Oh, my gosh.
What would the public
Yours is like
accept?
zero.
Mine's fine. I mean, it's fine, but like no woman wants to like announce what her weight is.
But here's a bigger question.
world?
Let's say you have the transparency. What would the public accept treatment for substance abuse or a mood disorder medication?
Right.
That's, I mean, these are interesting things that, like, if you found out that somebody had a mental problem in the 1990s, would you be okay with that? I mean,
well, if you were transparent from the very beginning, say, hey, listen, this is who I am, and this is what my past looks like, and then it's no surprise. The problem is we have Juan's right about this. We have two candidates who aren't willing to do that. Neither one are. But when the questions are so in your face, when she's stumbling and she's...
Yeah, but guess what? She's not going to go to the regular...
Then it's more relevant for her than it is for
Unless it's
right
like
now.
Near death, she's not going to go to... If you go to the ER, they're going to run a CBC, a complete blood count. They're going to do a chest X-ray if they say she was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday.
Where is that infection? Is it in the...
What else will they see?
Oh, you know, you'll put out every conspiracy theory that's floating around there right now immediately.
I see. So every candidate has to react to every critic. I don't
I'm saying something
when you're
different.
falling on your face,
Look, I remember when...
God forbid, she has to be somewhere. Or she is somewhere. She's in Russia, or she's in Brazil, or China. Do you want the leader of the free world needing help getting into the van and get her fluids?
I remember when one of our presidents was throwing up.
Once.
Okay, but
once.
I remember when Ronald Reagan...
I read off a list of 12,
had to have a
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different occurrences with her.
Things happen. They're human beings. They're not gods.
9 different since 05.
Well, I just don't think they're gods. I think they're human beings, and I think that you have to stop for a second and say, hey, remember FDR and polio?
Reagan,
this is why
was a god.
robots as presidents, 20 years. It's going to happen. Then we don't have to worry about this stuff. And no emotion. They just make decisions.
What an interesting show this is.
I know.
So bizarre.
When isn't it?
Right.
It's the main...
Where's the bubble suit?